Now, near Fitchburg, Massachusetts, a respectable farmer committed a quite minor breach against the men's styles of his period. And so we began by tracing his story through these objects. The case of razors is well over a century old, and it belongs to the time when every man liked to have a razor for each day of the week. So Joe Palmer, a farmer, prized such a set, because then it was the ironclad fashion for American men to go clean-shaven. Now there's also another kind of blade. The knife from a country store used for cutting cheese and things like that might also be used as a lethal weapon. To begin with, the story was ridiculous, except that it happened, and it became deadly, merely over a man's beard. Near Fitchburg, Massachusetts, there is a crude old monument of him. It doesn't look much like him, but it does show the whiskers. It was as trivial a thing as that, in a calm and peaceful New England town, beginning with a little friendly kidding in a barber shop.
So the parson stops the town drunkard. Samuel, says the parson, I'm disgusted with you. Now, you come to church tomorrow night, and I'll try to save you just once more. So the drunkard, he says, now that's right Christian of you, parson, but there are 9 churches in this town. Don't you think I ought to spread my business around a little more? Latest from Buffalo, New York. All right, Joe, I'll go to work on you.
Get in that chair, you big baboon. If we go home with a month's whiskers on us, our wives will scream and slam the door in our face. Say, Judge, you think we could take him into court for that?
You go ahead of me if you want, Parker. I've been growing this crop long enough so I can wait another half hour for mowing.
Every time you fellas go deer hunting and come back sprouting brush from your jaws, you like to admire yourselves a while, don't you?
Back to nature, they say, storekeeper. Now it's back to work.
Figure the extra work you growed for me in the woods, that'll be 15 cents for you, Parker, and 2 bits for Joe. He sprouted the more since you went hunting.
Say, I think I'll go home with all this hair on my face. Martha laughed fit to kill. Well, after all, if God chooses to grow hair on a man's face...
And God chooses to let a barber make his living, too. Ain't that right, Judge?
Yes, and if God chooses to make Joe Palmer one of the stubbornest cusses in...
I'll tell you the truth, boys. Once these things stop itching, wonder why a man shouldn't have the freedom, as long as he's not hurting nobody else. Well, I'll go home, scare Martha, and wash up. Bring my 2 bits and my beard back later. So long, boys.
Goodbye, Joe. Joe's a nice feller. Religious and all. Awfully nice wife, too. But he's got a pile of opinions.
So have I. One of them is that we leave the gossip to the women.
Remember those who suffer and eat not tonight. Thy grace on them, Lord, as on us, to whom thou givest so much. Amen. Sweet piece of deer meat, too. Lord was good to us. Parker and me packed $6 out apiece and stored them in Henderson's ice cellar. Well, there's a kind of joy in stalking your game through the deep woods. You're wild and free as the beasts you must kill. Now, ponder. Sometimes I ask the Lord with... Now, stop that. Come back here, Timothy. I'll not have my own... All right, Timothy, come on, sit down, eat your supper. Now, that's enough, that's enough.
You look a fright.
Yes, of course. It was just a little joke. But your own grandpa said that every fool man had a right to try a mustache or even a beard once in his lifetime. I guess we don't have that right in our generation.
Well, no sense in breaking with custom.
Yes, but the philosophy in this country...
Philosophizing won't keep you out of the barber chair tomorrow, Joe.
Don't keep Pete from charging me 2 bits for the job, either. But 150 years ago, an American could grow a beard like Methuselah and no soul to boss him. These mashed potatoes are as light as the wings of an angel, Martha.
I kind of like your whiskers, Pa. You look like the Bible. A picture from it, I mean.
There. Now, out of the mouths of babes.
Nonsense. A joke's a joke. Now finish your supper and...
I confess something aroused me, Martha. You know Henderson. We stored the deer meat in his ice house. Well, he said to me, and not joking, mind you, but like he'd a right to. And take that filth off your face, Joe, like an American.
Well, we are Americans, and in Rome, do as the Romans.
This ain't Rome, Martha. That's my point. This ain't Rome.
Every time you go hunting with Joe Palmer, you come back smelling of bad liquor and spouting lies and looking like a pair of Barbary apes.
Come to think about it, Joe still looked like a Barbary ape the last time I seen him.
It was nice of Charlie Parker and Joe to have Henderson leave us off a piece of their deer liver.
This deer liver is delicious.
But Henderson's still grumbling because Joe didn't chop off his whiskers yesterday afternoon. Imagine that.
What day is today, Martha?
Thursday.
Well, Finney the barber will swear up and down Broad Street that gypped him out of his 2 bits.
Well, you just gyp him then, but chop off those bristles. And you needn't act like Samson, afeard to lose his strength, along with a few snippets of hair.
That's what Delilah said, no doubt.
Well, it isn't Delilah's opinion concerns me, but neighbors like Henderson saying you ought to scrape the filth off your face.
I don't like that. Don't like the way Henderson ordered me. What do you say we let this crop grow a little higher before we put the mowers to it? What do you say, huh?
He hasn't been near my shop yet.
That means he still has it on, then. Why does he have to be so different?
Yeah. Merely a touch of eccentricity, dear. Would you have me try him in my court?
Get up. Up. To lie there on a Sunday and swear you won't go to church because it might mean laughing at Joe Palmer. How do we know he didn't join up with some secret religion or some bunch of anarchists?
Joe, an anarchist? Oh, fuck.
How do you know? How do you know?
How can we know why Joe grew up? All right, I'll go to church.
Who hates intolerance more than the Christian? Yet toleration is a two-edged sword, is it not? For we must learn to tolerate the needs and opinions of our neighbors before we ourselves can be tolerated. Who is a law unto himself?
All right, have your fun, but let me have mine, too.
After all, folks, it's getting pretty darn silly. All the jokes about's 4 inches of hair.
Which should be a-growing atop his head, where they belong.
Now, Joe's a customer, folks. If it is Joe behind that disguise.
That might well be the reason, Mr. Davis. Yeah, Joe. Who'd you kill you're running away from?
I thought he never killed anybody.
No. We'll be going. Is that everything on Martha's list?
You still trust him with credit, storekeeper?
Well, that's, $3.18.
$3. Well, you know I never carry no money in my overalls.
Oh, I was only funning, Joe, but...
I'll tell you this. I'll never go hunting again with a man who hides his face from me.
Shut up!
Joe, this has gone way past where it should. I'll lend you the money, of course, but
I don't know as I'll allow any man to...
Look, I'll give you the $3.18 for old time's sake. And that beard.
Jokes. Stand up for what we intend. Stand up or get down. You shave or you and your kind get out.
My kind? Listen,
Your kind. Your kind is what I mean. Pick up your groceries. Your friend should be run off by anybody man enough to protect the decent women of this town.
Wait a minute!
Neighbors. 14 good years among you. And I never knew. Your watchful eyes. Your little... I put too much meaning to it. Thanks, Parker. Keep your food, storekeeper. I'll please you all. Come along, children.
Caused trouble down to the store this morning. He had his secret reasons.
Why should he persist? What's he fighting for?
For something deep and secret that he should persist so strong.
Like I said last night, I tell you, he has his secret reasons.
But Joe's just like me. I tell you...
How do you know? How do you know?
I swear I've grown so used to you this way now, it'll seem indecent to look upon your naked face.
Well, you can leave the kitchen, Martha, and I'll sort of sneak up on you in about 20 minutes. Where's my little Susan?
Well, she is a mite late. Playing in the school grounds, I guess. If she don't come shortly, I'll send Tim.
It was the sight of a young face, Martha. Then I guess I got tired of seeing something nasty hiding right behind their eyes. Well, martyr or no martyr, I never felt better in my life.
I know they do it. They planned it. I'll kill him. I'll gouge your eyes.
Stay right here. Keep inside, Martha.
Tony, get away. Get away. Go on, get away. I want to die. I want forever to die. Baby.
Susan.
Go away from me. Let him go, Mother. Don't let anybody see. Baby. I ran clear down Broad Street, and the grown-ups shouted and laughed at me. And they didn't make the children stop. They didn't make them stop. They cut part of my hair, and they pulled me to a place and shoved me in. Don't let anybody see me. Baby.
I'll kill somebody. I'll kill him.
And the devil in these things is that when you've gone too far and let your children turn savage by your example, you can't stop. And knowing that if any one of you had had a little girl so treated, you would go hunting through the town to vent your rage, and so you knew he would. And gathered in the store to trap him, trying to make yourselves believe the whole blame lay upon a beard.
What time is it?
It's a difference. They'll be here.
Where are you? Get him up on the counter, man. Come on, get his arms. All right, let's go. Fool! We're just trying to off your beard. You didn't take it off, so we will. Hurry up or I'll rip it off by hand. Look out, he's got a knife! I'm trying to hack your beard off, you fool!
I will not hear a word, since there is no more in direct evidence. My court has not seen such a travesty in a dozen years. In fact, never mind. Assault and battery with lethal weapon. Charge sustained. Luckily for you, they didn't bleed to death, which would have sent you to the gallows. 1 year. Now get him out of here fast.
It was inevitable, as I pointed out 5 months ago. Very clearly, he belonged to a society of religious reformers, and his beard was a symbol.
I hunted and fished with him for years. And then one summer, it come out what he really was.
We should have realized years ago, but nobody paid any attention.
Walking around the house isn't going to put you to rest one jot. Now that justice has been done and I can sleep safe of nights, I'm willing to shut my tongue if only others have the same good sense.
Now, you come to bed.
No. I'm going outside for a while.
You've taken to reading supper time as well as breakfast.
It's an old lawyer's trick, Georgia. There are times when a man can't talk.
Joe Palmer.
Something has got to be done.
Silly, isn't it, to put a beard in jail, but maybe that might make the story.
Ready for you now, sir.
No rush. Hope to be here a couple of days. Just dropped in to freshen up after the long train ride. Anything wrong?
Oh, you'll set yourself on fire.
You better shut up, Fred. You see, sir, we ain't nosy in this town like it always says country people are in those city magazines.
Yeah? Oh, I like meeting people. I'm,
selling general merchandise? Specialty? Buffalo?
New York City.
Oh.
I'm what you might call a cub reporter. First time they've ever given me a railroad fare and expenses. My name's Carl Winton. The New York Globe.
Shave it off?
Gosh, no. It took me 3 months of tender care to raise this. No, just trim the neck and tidy the whiskers.
Yeah. Neck.
You like the beard? They're becoming all the fashion here and there. In fact, they're sweeping over the East like wildfire just the past few months. Doctors, lawyers, bankers, reporters.
Americans?
It's very funny. Well, it'll feel good to get some of the cinders off. I understand you've had some kind of trouble here with a man, Joe Palmerson?
Just Palmer.
Oh.
Joe.
Yeah, I thought you'd know, being the barber. I heard he got a jail sentence. I wonder if you could tell me why.
Well, just exactly to go into a condition which you might say is strictly our own business, I'm not the man to see. There's others closer to the mess. I'm not... Look, mister, you go see the marshal or the judge.
Sure, of course. Why? What was the reason? Tell me the reason. Why? Can you tell me that, Judge?
As a judge, my decision is based solely on the evidence presented in a trial. Now, you know that.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
I am not obliged to defend my judgment in a New York newspaper.
No, surely not, Judge, if that's the way you want it.
Now, the only evidence presented in this trial was an 18-inch cheese knife with which Joe Palmer murderously attacked a group of our townspeople. Even after he was bodily flung to the floor, he was still lunging with this weapon with intent to kill. Now, that was the only evidence presented in the case.
Yes, I know that, sir.
As an officer of this court, I am bound to listen only to the evidence presented in a trial.
Yes, sir. But there's one thing I'd like to get clear. Was the beard he wore presented in evidence?
No. No, of course not. However, now look, I cannot discuss this. I would do so. I would be very glad to discuss this with you outside of law. What I think as a private citizen has nothing to do with my position on the bench.
And what do you think, Judge? As a private citizen, of course.
I am disturbed. But the law is the law. I have a friend that you might ask. I'll ask him here at noon.
Thank you, Judge. Why did you do... I apologize, Reverend. Why did they do it?
Well, these matters, young man, are the unwritten laws of a congregation. In order to worship as one, there must be solidarity. The early Christians themselves, for example...
Yes, sir?
I'm subject to great confusion. I've searched my soul.
There's a woman here in this town, Mrs. Parker, I think, who seems to enjoy making trouble, who told me, Reverend, that her husband came to your house the night they planned to trap Joe Palmer into making a wild attack so they could shave off his beard by force. And she said that her husband asked you if it was right.
I'm not obliged to answer irresponsible questions. I advised against it.
I see, Reverend. Thank you.
Oh, hello, Mr. Winton. Get your story? What the dickens is this, Judge?
The young man wants to know why, Parker. How do you like it?
I was in the store. I held Joe down with my thumbs digging into his throat. That's how much I like it.
I have insisted, however, that the case was tried on the evidence. At the same time...
The interesting thing, gentlemen, is that we would never have heard about this incident at all had it not been that someone in this town, a man of education, wrote us an anonymous letter in which he said that local children had been led to outrage a little girl with filth in order to punish her father. That's quite a story. You didn't write that letter, did you, Judge?
Within 10 days, they had a paper to suspend Joe's sentence, but he was strangely stubborn now and stayed in jail to the final hour of his term. And why should a man do that? And then he walked the town square again among us, perfectly friendly as if it hadn't happened at all. And the years went past, and now half our men were sporting beards, a matter of the style, of course. We were having a little kidding in the barber shop, and when Joe spoke of it at last, he left it no plainer than before.
And the drunkard turned to the minister and he says, that's right Christian of you, parson, but there's 9 churches in this town. Don't you think I ought to spread my business around a little bit? That's the latest from Buffalo, New York. That was the latest from Buffalo in your Uncle Pete's time. The first time I heard that story was the day I decided not to shave my whiskers off.
Well, I heard the story of that, Joe. It never made any sense to me.
It didn't make any sense, did it, Reverend? Old times of witch burning would have seemed more reasonable. Are you coming over to dinner Sunday, Joe?
No, thank you, sir. I'm going hunting with Parker and Timothy. Mind if I leave the gun? I guess none of us will ever know the plain answer. I was a stubborn cuss at first, and it opened a door. Something black burst through and went crazy. Judge, if I laid something on the conscience of this town, does it still lay somehow on me? Was it all of us?
You may recall that in the beginning we showed you some film which we took of the monument to Joe Palmer, which is near Fitchburg. And now we can read the inscription. Persecuted for wearing the beard. But Joe was by no means the first, not by a long shot, not by several thousand years. This statue represents a Greek fighting man of over 2,300 years ago. And in spite of the long hair on top of the head, you will notice that he is a clean-shaven man. Alexander the Great, it seems, figured that if his soldiers were clean-shaven, then the enemy in hand-to-hand combat couldn't grab them by the beards, which made a great deal of sense at the time. But several centuries later, it had become a mere style. Nevertheless, if you wore a beard, you were the enemy because you looked a little different. And it was this fear of that which appears strange, which was the real villain that pursued Joe Palmer. And so, until we meet next week for another story, good evening.
at telephone time next week. Until then, we remain sincerely yours, the Bell Telephone System.